Hello Wargames, it's me Callum from Tabletop Banter, and in today's video we're going to continue our look at the Harlequin Codex, in particular having a look at the skimming units, so that's the Skyweaver, Voidweaver and Starweaver. So there we have it. This is the first of the skimmers we'll be going over today, so basically going over fast attack and heavy support today, which is just the skimming units left before tomorrow, well not tomorrow, before the next video, where we will discuss formations. Now in this video, like I said, we're just going over skimmer stuff, so we're going to start with the Skyweavers. Now the Skyweavers are basically the 2-wound jet bikes. So what we're going to do is I'm going to run through the stats first, go over a couple of the bits of war gear, talk about maybe points cost and stuff like that. So the first thing to note is they are weapon skill 5, much like the entirety of this army. They are ballistic skill 4, strength 3, toughness 4, because obviously they're on a bike. They're 2 wounds, initiative 6, 3 attacks, leadership 9, 4+ armor save. Obviously they've got their 5-up invulnerable. They have mirage launchers, which is a way of boosting the invulnerable up to a 4-up, but it's a once a game thing only. They have Star Bowlers standard, which I believe is a 1-use strength 6 AP2 12-inch range assault 2 weapon. Fear, Furious Charge and Hit and Run. Now all of this is for 100 points. Now if you think about it, that's about 25 points a wound, but it's only toughness 4, so it's 50 points per bike. They come equipped with shuriken cannons standard. They may upgrade this shuriken cannon to the haywire cannon for 5 points a model. I'm not sure I would do that myself. I'm quite a fan of shuriken weapons, shuriken cannons in particular. A lot of strength 6 rending, sort of, or pseudo rending anyway, is good. So you could take them up to a maximum unit size of 6, but the minimum unit size of 2 is probably how I would run them personally. What else have we got here? So the model may replace its Star Bowler with a Zephyr Glaive. Now a Zephyr Glaive, for those of you who are familiar with regular 40k stuff, it's basically a power lance. Strength +1 AP2 if you charge, if not strength user AP3. Now obviously I have Furious Charge, so if you are getting the charge off, it's strength 5 AP2, and that would be with 4 attacks per bike. So that's basically, this is the general overview. That's all that was. That's all I was getting at there. Now in some formations they're compulsory. I think they're pretty good, so I would want to take as many as possible. Now I have written, like I say, an 1850 point list with the attempt of trying to make Harlequins competitive, or to at least a semi-competitive state, despite them being possibly the weakest codex. So let's just say bikes were pretty heavy in this list, in the list ideas. So let's talk about those upgrades. So would I take more than 2 in a unit? Probably not. The way you can take formations to include more bikes, 2 is the ideal number because you're never rallying on double ones. You can MSU. They're still outputting 6 shots between 2 guys at strength 6 rending on infantry, which is pretty good. Or at the very worst, you're getting a haywire blaster, or haywire cannon, sorry. So again, not all bad. They've got a 4-up armor save, which is handy. They can jink. The mirage launchers means that they can once a game boost their invulnerable from a 5-up to a 4-up, which is really quite handy for that sort of first turn where you want to keep your damage output as high as possible, but at the same time you want stuff surviving. So you just pop the mirage launchers as soon as you can, and you go from there. Now the next upgrade, replacing Star Bowlers with Zephyr Glaives. Yes, I in most of the lists I've written, that has been the case. Reason being is 9 times out of 10 you're going to want to be charging with these guys anyway. Assault moving around, turbo boosting, getting in enemies' lines, becoming a pain, being a nuisance. That's what these bikes are great at. Don't forget they're LR jet bikes, so they do get that ridiculous 36-inch turbo boost, which is just brilliant. So in the game, Harry and I have played a test game on Vassal with Harlequins versus Black Templars, and that video will be going up at some point in the near future, and that you can see how my list gets on, and the strengths and weaknesses of the Harlequins. And the turbo boosting I don't think it came into effect, but you can imagine how much smaller you make a table when you have that much mobility. So yeah, basically Zephyr Glaives I do like. I think Zephyr Glaives are the way to go because you're getting that power lance effectively, and that's pretty solid. The Haywire Cannon I would take less often, unless I found myself lacking particular quantities of anti-tank. I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 squads could have Haywire Cannons, but I'm not that fussed about them, to be honest. They don't really do it for me. Not for 5 points when you've already got a Shuriken Cannon. So that's pretty much it on the Skyweavers. I think they are the strongest unit you can take in the book. And I would definitely look to maximise them if you plan on being competitive. So we're going to turn the page and we are going to head over to the Star Weavers and the Void Weavers. So what I'm going to do is just quickly zoom out, and here they are. So you'll notice that this is an incredibly similar looking vehicle because they are from the same kit. Same chassis and everything, same rules and so forth on the whole. So let's start off with the Star Weaver over here. So it's a ballistic skill 4, 2 hull point, armor 10 all around. It's obviously a skimmer. It's a vehicle, skimmer fast, open topped, transport capacity of 6. What can I tell you about the Star Weaver? It's almost a must when you are playing Harlequins because you need the transport. Like, you really need the transport protection. Think about, I mean, a lot of the time I've already explained in this book how a 5-up invuln is just not enough. You are now adding an extra armor save to these Harlequins now by putting them in a transport. It's almost unnecessary. At 70 points it's pretty steep. Yeah, and there's no upgrades for it. It's just that's the cost you pay. The cost you pay. The price you pay. There we go. Regardless of whether you want to upgrade or not, there are no upgrades. It's just the Star Weaver. But with that, you get 2 Shuriken Cannons, you get hollow fields, mirage launchers again, the transport capacity of 6, and fear. So this vehicle causes fear, which is pretty interesting. It does increase that survivability, though with a lot of fearless and unless you'll know no fear kicking around, it's less influential on the game. However, we're looking at this war gear specifically. 2 Shuriken Cannons, hard to argue with. Hollow Fields is a 5-up invulnerable save, and a Mirage Launcher turns that to a 4-up once a game. So again, what we're seeing is that first turn output is pretty solid. 2 Shuriken Cannons, plus it's an open top vehicle, so the unit inside can fire. I see some strong points there. Again, I would say this particular vehicle is a must, every single time, just because you need a way of transporting that slightly soft glass cannon unit around. There isn't really a lot to say about upgrades and stuff obviously with this. It takes up a fast attack slot if you take it on its own. Obviously you can take them as dedicated transport for your troop choices. In the list I wrote, I took one of these for fast attack, and I'll explain why when I get around to it really, and you'll see in the lists for the other game. But yeah, so onto the Void Weaver. Okay, so here is the Void Weaver. Again, you'll notice exactly the same chassis as I've already mentioned. This is the heavy support choice for the Harlequins, and what you'll notice in a lot of the formations and a lot of the ways you can actually take Harlequins is this is a very forced option. You don't often have the choice to not take a Void Weaver. In every single formation that I've been looking at building out, you've needed one. Not that they're particularly bad, it's just there's no way to avoid it. But like I said, they're not that bad. They're actually pretty good. I quite like them. I do want more. I've obviously got one from the Death Mask box set. You get a Void Weaver there. I didn't bother swapping out any of the options because at the end of the day there's only one way I want to take it, and although I could turn it into a Star Weaver, you need a minimum of 1 Void Weaver if you're collecting Harlequins anyway. So what was the point in not putting a Void Weaver together? Also meant I could associate with the kit a bit more, and when I do eventually get some more of these two, that I would know the kit a little bit better. So let's start with the basics. We have the Ballistic Skill 4, Armor 10 all around, 2 hull points, much the same. It's a vehicle, skimmer fast, open topped, and let's go into the war gear. So it has a Haywire Cannon stock, 2 Shuriken Cannons again, hollow fields, mirage launcher, and it causes fear. Now, that means it's got a total of 3 weapons, so obviously, I mean, that's pretty decent. Here we have the special rule aft weapon, or aft, or whatever you want to call it. It's a rear-facing weapon. Whenever a Void Weaver shoots, the Shuriken Cannon mounted on its aft, or rear, can shoot at a different target to the Void Weaver's other weapons. So this means the Shuriken Cannon mounted on the Void Weaver's aft can only target units that are in its arc in the rear facing. Now, what does that mean? It means 2 things. 1, you can make the most of multiple weapons firing in at multiple targets. 2, it means every time you see someone playing a Void Weaver, it's going to be reversing. The reason is quite simple. The weapon here, the Haywire Cannon, or as is in this picture, Prismatic Cannon, is a turret-mounted weapon, so it can see 360 degrees. The Shuriken Cannon on the bottom, that is a forward-facing weapon only, and it just has the front-facing armour, and the aft weapon is obviously rear-facing. Now, obviously you'd think, well, why would you reverse? Quite simple. Basically gives the vehicle split fire. If you are going forwards, then it doesn't matter too much, but if you're going backwards, you can split this one off or fire it into the same target. It doesn't note when it needs to be declared, so one assumes you can do it as and when you like, as it's not a gargantuan monstrous creature or super heavy vehicle. So really it just gives you that flexibility. The thing you will also may find is that if you only move 6 inches, you can fire as if you haven't moved, because it's a fast vehicle, I believe that's the rules. So you could fire sideways, you might drive sideways up the board, but the only ways you're going to be facing are sideways or rear at the end of the day, which is a bit weird. I don't like it. They could have made the bottom one pivoted and then the rear one, I don't know, whatever. It's just, it seems a bit goofy. Anyway, so very much the same as before, except now we're getting a Haywire Cannon for 5 points and sacrificing our transport capacity. So options may include an additional 2 Void Weavers. Yep, I like this. I like being able to take a squad of 3. I would definitely do that. I would give them all the same loadout though. I wouldn't go mixing Prismatic and Haywire. Just a personal preference, I'm not a fan. If I was going to do it, it would be 2 Haywire, 1 Prismatic. Hopefully that wasn't too loud, but it may have been. Lost my train of thought, and I'm back. Okay, so yes, as I was saying, the Haywire Cannon, I take 2 of those just to knock off some hull points and maybe get a lucky penetrating hit with the Prismatic Cannon, which has a few different modes of fire. And any model may replace its Haywire Cannon with a Prismatic Cannon, as I've just mentioned. 5 points a model. Now, the Prismatic Cannon, which is on page 90, which is still a few pages over, we're going to make our way over there now. It's a very interesting weapon in the way that it has multiple modes of fire, and gone a few pages too far. Here we go. So, on to the shooting. Prismatic Cannon, right, okay, yes. 3 modes of fire. Those are the important things. So, the first one is Dispersed, which is a Strength 3 AP4 Heavy 1 Large Blast. So you're dropping a big template that's about this big, and it's Strength 3 AP4. Now, AP4 you'd be surprised at nowadays. That takes out Eldar, takes out Tau, Admech. Yes, it's only Strength 3, which is not ideal, but taking away an armor save is always good. We do like that. And yes, that's pretty handy. The next one is a Focused Shot, which is a Strength 5 AP3 Heavy 1 Blast. So now you're killing small numbers of tactical marines. That's basically what that's for. It's about this big. Knocks off 3 or 4 tactical marines because you're taking away their armor save. And finally we have a Lance, Strength 7 AP2 Heavy 1 Lance. So you're suddenly reducing armor values to 12. Okay, it's only Strength 7, so it's still 5s to Glance. And then 6s to Pen. But it's a 1 in 3 chance you'll take a hull point off, which is lower than Haywire, but at least you've got that flexibility. Like I said, for flexibility's sake, I would take 1 Prismatic Cannon, 2 Haywire if I was running them in squads of 3. Because the Haywire can knock off 2 hull points, no problem. This can then deal with hull points, or if we're going to go against infantry, then who knows? Oh, excuse me. I will have to edit that out. That's a quick reminder. So yeah, so there you have it. That's pretty much it for the skimming vehicles. Not a very long video today. Just wanted to go over some of the basics. There are only obviously 3. The 1 heavy support, the 2 fast attacks. They are used in multiple formations. This one is almost mandatory, so you may as well have at least 1 of these built up, possibly more. I probably need another 2 minimum. which is definitely on the list, along with a lot of other things, in order for me to actually run this codex in a semi-competitive way. Not that obviously competitive game is everything for me, but it'd be nice to try and have a good go at making a particularly weak codex strong. So in the next video we are going to go over the formations that are in the back of this book. There are so many formations, so many ways you can play them. Some of them are a bit restrictive, some of them are pretty much what I fancy taking anyway, so we'll have a look at those in a bit more detail next time. Anyway, thank you ever so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave those comments below. Let me know what you thought of the video. Let me know what you're thinking of the codex. Is there anything you want to see from me as a content producer? I always ask this because I like to know what you like, though it obviously has to fit around my hobby, as this is part of my hobby. At the same time, if there is something you want to see from me that I can facilitate, I would happily do that. So do leave a comment below if there's anything you want to see. For now, thank you ever so much for watching. It's been me, Callum, from Tabletop Banter. Don't forget, have fun.